You've unlocked a Roundtable.
Hello, and welcome to the Lost Levels Roundtable discussion of The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. My name's Chris. With me, as always, is Alex.
Hello.
And we just saw The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 in theaters, and we are going to talk about it now in a review type of atmosphere where we're not going to go into spoilers. So we'll do a review first at the end credits. After the end credits, then we'll go into the spoiler section where we can talk a little bit more freely about what we think about the movie.
Get more in depth, get to the nitty gritty of it all.
Definitely getting into the nitty gritty of it because there's a lot to say about this series as a whole, as well as this movie, but it's kind of hard to get into that in a non-spoiler type of thing because it's kind of hard to talk about these movies because if you haven't seen them, then why the hell are you listening to this podcast?
Right.
But if you have seen them, it's like we don't want to get too much into the story because then what if you might, I don't know. I don't want to spoil shit for people.
If you're going based, you watching the whole series on this one review, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that, bro?
So yeah, we're doing a review on that first, so then we'll go into it later. But yeah, this is the finale, the last movie of it. They split the third book into two movies, very common in Hollywood nowadays to capitalize on money and to make stuff longer.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
To really just draw it out. And I think that Alex, after the movie, kind of let his guard down and gave me an idea.
I showed my cards exactly what I was thinking after that movie.
Which is something we normally don't do. We kind of watch a movie and then we'll start walking out and we don't say anything because we want it to be natural on the podcast. Because like it makes it more of an interesting discussion. Because like if we talk about it beforehand, there's a lot of times we'll just gloss over something or we won't remember exactly what we wanted to talk about because we already talked about it. So we wanted to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we tend to keep our thoughts to ourselves so it could come out during the reviews.
Yeah, and you were so excited about this movie at the end, like you couldn't wait to talk about it. So this is the first time I've seen you spill a little bit.
Yeah, this movie just did that to me. I don't know what it was, and
I know exactly what it was.
Well, I don't know. I've had strong opinions about movies before, but to the point where this like had that outburst, and I'm like, that really caught me off guard.
Right. So, basic, quick summary of the movie. The war in Panam continues. Destruction with the other districts versus the capital. Obviously, you kind of know the premise already because you're listening to part 2 of a podcast, or you're listening to a review for a part 2 of a movie. So, we really don't need to go into that. We're not
spoiling anything from the first 3.
Right. Something that you've watched recently.
Yeah. I didn't watch any of them in theaters. I saw the first one probably about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. No, what did you think about the introduction? What did you think about The Hunger Games, the first movie?
It's been so long. It was fine. It wasn't great. Like it's for an audience that's not me.
Okay.
And I feel like that's kind of the whole series at this point.
It's some movies in general. It's
those teen novelizations, and you know, I am not that. I was never into that even when I was a teen.
We didn't really have. See, I can't even say we because we're
right,
two different generations as it is.
We're a decade apart about.
Right.
I won't say generations, the generation part, but like there wasn't really anything like that for me.
Yeah, like I didn't have too much of stuff like that either. When I was growing up, so this is
there weren't those types of books that I could think of when I was growing up either.
Yeah, there really isn't. Like
this is kind of a newer phenomenon,
and definitely Hollywood is capitalizing on this newer phenomenon, where you have all these like teen drama love stories, like obviously Twilight,
Harry Potter to a degree, because I mean the characters grow up with the audience, so that makes sense. So it started out with younger kids to teens. So you definitely saw the stories evolve in that sense. Yeah,
and in regards to Harry Potter, there's definitely as the people mature, or as the kids matured with the books, the writing also matured. And
yes.
by the
so
sixth,
did the directing for the movies.
yeah, like by the sixth and seventh book, those are quality books. Like those are great reads. I really enjoyed reading those books as opposed to like somebody who like Twilight. I'm going to use Twilight as an example. Like those are just written like garbage and they're not very good books. But like Harry Potter on the other hand is just like top notch. It's like, it's a really, really well done series. And I'm not like a huge Harry Potter fan by any means. Like I'm not going to Hogwarts or anything, but
Right.
I appreciated the sixth and seventh book a lot. I thought they were actually written really well.
I didn't read any of the books. I watched majority of the movies, and yeah, I could appreciate them for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still hold some animosity towards Harry Potter just because growing up in high school, I kind of looked like Harry Potter. Like I had the glasses and everything, so that was a popular name for me.
Wow.
So I was like,
I didn't know that. I have to find some high school pictures of you now.
oh god,
That's hilarious.
there's some up at my parents' house.
I didn't
They're
pay
there.
attention. I have to go look.
No, you don't.
That's too funny.
But anyways, Hunger Games.
Yes, teen novels. So yeah, I actually read these books. So I kind of knew what I was in for going into the series. And I was excited for the first one. I thought they did a really good job with that. And, as the series kind of went on, I felt like it lost some of its luster. Like, I felt like Hunger Games Part 1 was definitely a ripoff of, what's that Japanese movie? Battle Royale.
Yeah, and you know, everyone's talked about, like, everyone knows that at this point.
Yeah, so, like, I felt like that was obviously just a Western fit into a teen type of Battle Royale storyline where it got so much success. The writer probably was like had a moment of clarity, like, oh shit, I should make more out of this, and didn't necessarily think that going into finishing the Hunger Games, because it clearly ended there, and everybody would have been fine with it and just called it a day. But then had to expand on this universe that.
But I feel like a lot of those teen novelizations and movies do that. Let's look at The Maze Runner and the Divergent series. And Hunger Games, I mean, they start with this very small concept, and the first one will end. Then you learn of this whole bigger world in the other ones, and they just keep expanding upon this to create this whole type of universe almost.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
It seems very sweaty at that point because it wasn't part of the initial concept. I feel
It wasn't fleshed out.
exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that. So especially with the Divergent series, I felt that like had a really strong premise. I liked the first one, but by the end of the third book, I almost couldn't read it.
I know you read those books as well, but
Yeah, I did. I have a 15-year-old daughter,
that's true.
so I wanted to try to have stuff that we could talk about and bullshit about. So
Yeah, no, that makes
I
sense.
felt that, she was reading the series, and I decided I was going to read it too to help out and talk about it. So that's why I read those, not because I was like, oh man, I love these teen novels.
Oh, I imagine, yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, back to the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. We talked about the story a little bit. This is kind of like a different type of thing because like we've already, it's an established thing. So like we talk about Jennifer Lawrence, like she is Katniss. I think that Katniss really made Jennifer Lawrence who she is today in terms of her Hollywood success.
Yeah, and she's definitely evolved a lot beyond that. Like she has some really good acting chops. As much as there's that Joy movie coming out, and as much as I'm not really interested in that, looking at her screen presence in that movie, you definitely get a good range from her. And this Katniss character, I think, was a good jumping off point for that. You do get that range of what she can do.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that like she has grown very much over the years, and it's nice just to see her finally end her run as Katniss in this, and now she can move on into bigger and better things, like you said, Joy. And she's in a lot of great movies.
I mean, she's already an Oscar winner, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, she's killing it. She's awesome. So like, it's kind of interesting to see like if this type of popular Jennifer Lawrence would have done this role today. Like if they have said, "Hey, we're going to do the Hunger Games. Would you be interested in this?" Already established Jennifer Lawrence, and I don't think she would.
Yeah, I know you're probably right about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
For these types of movies. It kind of starts out with a no-name person. I mean, look once again, going back to the Harry Potter series or Maze Runner or Divergent. Like these are kind of no-named people, just trying to get that teen audience to get that teen fanfare.
Right. I mean, look at the casting for a lot of things. Like even in Marvel movies, you see a lot of the times. Like Robert Downey Jr. was like a wild card at the time. He wasn't as popular. He's obviously an established actor, but he's always been kind of like the troubled actor type of thing. So they took a huge chance on him. It paid off largely.
Well, wasn't he wasn't even the highest paid actor for that, right? I heard that. Christ, what's his name? His bodyguard.
Jon Favreau?
No, not his bodyguard.
He directed it. He directed Iron Man 1.
I can't remember. Someone else in there was higher paid than him for the movie.
Was it Terrence Howard?
Yes, that's it.
He was angry. He didn't want to do part 2, so they replaced him. But yeah, I mean, even Helmsworth as Thor. Like they're just like they're popular now, but they weren't necessarily like the number one A-list people that you would expect. You always see these A-listers like they should play this, and it's better off that they kind of get like no names. I kind of like,
unlike DC, who takes bigger names and tries to go off that popularity, like Ben Affleck as Batman,
right? Which everybody hates. We'll see. We'll see if that pays off.
All right.
Okay, we are sidetracking like crazy in this.
Wow.
So, aside from Jennifer Lawrence, did anybody's performances really stand out to you?
No.
What about Donald Sutherland as President Snow?
He's a fine actor. Like, I like him. I like seeing him and stuff, but at the same time, like, he's not a draw for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's not a draw, but I think that he played Snow really well. I really liked him as President Snow.
I liked Hutchison. What's his name?
Josh.
Yeah, Josh Hutchison.
Who plays PETA.
Yeah, I think he did a good job of portraying how troubled that character was and how much he's struggling with what's going on and what's going on in his own psyche.
Yeah. Okay. I think that, yeah, you're right. I think he did a really good job. Aside from, obviously Jennifer, Josh, and Donald, the rest of the cast doesn't really have anywhere to fit in. Like, they're not really present enough to make you care.
Even little Helmsworth.
Liam?
Yeah, little. Little Helmsworth. His character was just kind of blah, which is weird because he was supposed to kind of be a love interest, and it was just he played that unrequited lover just blandly.
Yeah, and it's the unfortunate thing. Even like throughout the whole entire series, like you just never really felt a connection there. I mean, obviously they hunted together and everything like that, but at the same time, he wasn't.
This is like a Bella and Edward / Jacob type scenario where like, oh, who's she going to choose? Like, well, it's
Yeah, it's between Gale and PETA, obviously. But at the same time, the interesting thing about it, too, is, like, I think that one of the strong points about the series, too, is Katniss is a damaged character. She's not the perfect love interest, the person like, oh, my God, who am I going to pick between PETA and Gale? She's such a damaged character that even Gale says it at one point to PETA, just saying, like, she's going to pick whoever she feels safest with. And that's kind of like her character. And I think I like that. I like the fact that like she doesn't necessarily need somebody.
No, she is a very strong, independent woman, and it will be up to her, and it's not based off necessity for her,
Yeah, and that's the thing that that interests me about this series. I liked Katniss as a character. I thought that like her progression, everything that she's gone through, makes her that really strong individual. And she's not just a one-dimensional cookie-cutter type of character.
No, definitely. There's a lot of strength behind her, and you do see her development and growth, and everything she struggles with.
Yeah, so I really, really liked that. I really liked her performance, obviously, as well as Katniss, the character. I like that. But, like, for this part 2 here, it feels like the problem is that they split up Mockingjay into 2 parts, and there's just a lot of stuff, like filler stuff that goes on, which is still in the book. I mean, they're not adding stuff like The Hobbit by any means, but it just feels like there's stuff that doesn't really need to go there.
It could have been left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird too, because I'm saying like a lot of this could have been cut, but at the same time, there's no like extra character development that makes you kind of care about anybody else. Like President Coin, who's played by Julianne Moore, her character, she's very motivated, she's just there. You
right.
know,
I mean, you get a small sense of what she is, but not a large one, and not to the point where when everything goes down, I would have expected that from her.
yeah, and I think maybe some of that is because of the passing of Philip Seymour Hoffman and his relationship with Coin, who plays Plutarch, obviously the game maker in the second one, was it Catching Fire? And because he passed away, they kind of had to CGI him into some scenes, which Adam said was very noticeable.
I didn't notice it, but then again, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to look for is that actually him filmed or is that CGI? Adam claims it looks really bad. I don't know. I didn't notice it as much as Adam did, obviously, but just something to point out there. But I think that because he passed away, there's a lot of scenes that they couldn't necessarily do with Coin that they might have done to try to develop her character a little bit more.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I can see that.
And one of the other strong characters that I've always liked throughout the series was Woody Harrelson's character, Haymitch. Mm-hmm. I really liked him. And
you don't get a lot of him in this one.
You don't get a lot of him in this, and he's just there in a couple scenes, like, oh, there's Hamish, type of thing. But he was one of the reasons I liked this series too, because I liked his dynamic with Katniss and their relationship, and I didn't feel like we got enough of him, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, okay, we kind of went through the characters. What else you want to talk about here?
I don't know. It's hard to get into it without going into spoilers, but it's the pacing of this movie is long.
Yes.
I felt like a lot of scenes went on much longer than they had to, and once again, a lot of scenes could have been cut to the point where when we got out of the theater, I was expecting it to be an hour later than it was, because it felt like it was an hour longer than it was.
It was a different feeling, because we just reviewed Spectre, another movie that we kind of felt like it took forever in runtime, but it was, I mean, it felt long, and it felt like it took forever, but like, this is a different type of long, because you get to the end point of it,
and they kept stringing it along.
And then they kept stringing it, so you're like, come on.
Very reminiscent of Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, where it's like, how many endings is this movie going to have?
It slowly fades to black. Okay, cool, credits. Wait, no. Damn it. It's not over yet.
Yeah, because I remember there was a point where it was like, really? I thought it was over. And I go, wait, seriously? More? And you started laughing because I verbally said that.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Well, just like... And the problem with the ending is it didn't feel climactic. Like, I felt that, you have these 3 movies preceding this and building up to this point, this dynamic end, and it just kind of flounders towards the end.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, there.
And we'll talk about it in the spoiler section, because we don't want to necessarily get into the end there here in the
right.
In the
we don't
review.
get into detail on how why I felt that.
But you're right. It does feel like it's not necessarily a traditional Hollywood payoff.
Yeah, and I feel like the problem of this movie, the ending of this movie, is because it's trying not having read the books, I feel like it's trying to be too faithful to the books because it felt like a very novelized ending. Very heavy on epilogue and things of that nature, which is something you would get a lot of from a book, but not necessarily you get a lot from movies. And I felt the movie suffered trying to be too faithful to it.
And it was. It was very, very similar to the book, I think. I have read the book several years ago, but this is exactly what I remembered from the book. So I believe that it was very accurate to it. I might be wrong, I apologize if I am, but if I'm remembering it correctly, those are the events that unfolded.
Right, and it's just, they're just two different mediums, so you expect storytelling to be very different than the two, and they did not take that into account when making this movie.
Yeah, because you can't please everybody. You have book loyalists who are like, "Oh, you can't change it from the book. That's stupid. I can't believe you guys did that." Yeah. And then you have, movie people who are just looking at it like, I just want to watch the movie and have a good time with it. So you get changes that are Hollywood cuts that make, more sense for a movie that don't necessarily translate from the book to the movie.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think it does kind of...
And I can't say that anyone's really at fault for that. I want to say the book loyalists are the problem, but at the same time, it is something that they care passionately about. And I could understand why they would get upset with it not being followed to a T. But at the same time, it's like you do have to be open-minded and realize this is a different medium and things have to play out differently just to make sense in a very different storytelling capacity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in a book you might have a 300 or 400 page ability to develop some characters, develop more stuff that's going on in the background, and give that type of information. But you have a 2 hour to 2.5 hour movie that you need to fit 400 pages into.
You don't have that luxury,
right?
It's just plain and simple.
So I mean, it makes sense that they went part 1, part 2 for the Mockingjay because there is a lot of heavy content involved. I mean, you do need to set up some of this stuff, and some of the setup works, some of the setup doesn't work. As you said, a lot of the scenes could have been trimmed a little bit, and I do agree with you. But I still don't see them being able to trim enough of the Mockingjay to make it one movie. I'm okay with it actually being 2 movies.
Yeah.
Which is weird because usually I'm one of those people who's like, no, it needs to be one movie.
Yeah, there is a lot of content there, and I felt, yes, I agree with you. I feel like they trimmed a lot of it to make just one movie. A lot would have been missing, and the series would have suffered for that. But at the same time, even though they could have trimmed a lot, there was such little character development for everyone else and everything else that the people that died in the movie, I felt very little for.
Yeah.
And there's just one scene where people are just dropping left and right, and it's to the point where I wasn't even paying attention who was dying. I did not know who died at this point or that point. It just kind of happened quickly. And just one of the first people in the crew that died, I don't even remember seeing him beforehand. I really had to rack my brain, where did he come from?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of not fleshed out well enough, despite things being dragged out.
Right.
It's so that they focused too much on the wrong stuff.
Yeah, there is a little bit of misfocus, I would say. Yeah, I agree with that. So that being said, is there anything else that you want to talk about here in the non-spoiler section?
I don't think so. I think we kind of covered everything we can.
Okay, so then obviously listen after the end credits for our spoiler-filled review, or I think that we can share our thoughts a little bit more openly. Mm-hmm. This is a little bit of a hard one to review without talking about specific things going on in it. So your overall thoughts, Alex, what do you think about The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2?
If I'm looking at this movie, I'm looking at it as part of a whole series. I feel like watching this movie and seeing how it wraps up the whole series, it leaves me wanting more and leaves me kind of disappointed in watching everything, because I felt like there was all this whole build up to something that didn't really have a lot of payoff in the end. That there was no grand fight, no grand battle, and just, like I said, everything just kind of floundered towards the end and just fell flat for me. So, like, this kind of just leaves a sour taste in my mouth for the whole series, to the point where, like, I really don't think, if you haven't seen any of the movies, if you're wanting a big payoff at the end of it, there's no point, because this just ruins the whole build.
Okay. Yeah, as a whole, I like the series. I don't dislike it. I would sit down and probably watch it again. Like, I really enjoyed Katniss as a character, as I said, and Jennifer Lawrence's performance of her. There's definitely some good stuff in there. I do agree with the ending. Like, even when I read it in the book, and I read the last page, closed the book, and I thought about it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about the ending. I'm not excited about it. I don't feel like there's as you said, the payoff or whatever. It's just, it's there. It's okay. It definitely gives you closure to the storyline. It just doesn't give you a satisfying closure, maybe, that could have been. But otherwise, I've enjoyed the series as a whole. In terms of a single Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, I felt that this is probably one of the weaker movies in the series. I enjoyed the first one. I actually liked Part 1 a lot, even though not a lot goes on in Part 1. I felt like character-wise and written-wise, I thought it was really well made. Mm-hmm. I really liked Part 1 as opposed to Part 2.
I enjoyed Part 1. I thought the other ones were fine. Like, they didn't wow me in any specific way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like I wasted my time watching them. I only felt that way after watching this one.
Yeah, now that you've had your finale,
yeah,
you kind of feel like to the series.
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand that. And I can definitely see a lot of people feeling the same way as you do. For me, I just felt like this is definitely not the best movie of the series, not the worst one in the series. It's just there. It's okay. And now the series is over and we could kind of move on from it. So that being said, I would say probably, if you've already invested into the series, you're going to watch the end regardless of what we say, because you want to watch an end to it. You have to have closure at some point. So, yeah, watch it if you're a fan of the series. If you're brand new to the series, maybe if you're bored, watch it for free.
Okay, I guess.
I
don't know. I couldn't even get behind that, but...
Okay, yeah, be honest. I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. No. Well, fair enough. All right, so Alex, how can we reach you?
You can follow me on Twitter. My name there is Alex Sandberg, AlexSandberg, or you can email me directly at the website, alex@lostlevel.com. What about you, Chris?
I'm on Twitter, twitter.com/calmintensity. We have all of our social media sites on lostlevel.com in the upper right-hand corner. We're also on YouTube. We're definitely trying to add a lot more content onto YouTube. Maybe doing some videos soon of us recording, as well as some exclusive content like some unboxings and whatever. So we'd really appreciate you taking a look at our YouTube page, subscribing to it. Something that we're definitely trying to get behind right now. Again, all of our social media stuff, like Twitter, Facebook. We're on iTunes as well. Upper right-hand corner, lostlevel.com. We really appreciate you guys checking that stuff out. So hang on here for the spoiler section. Until then, talk to you guys soon.
Spoilers.
Spoiler time. All right. What do you want to start with first?
The predictable aspects of it.
The predictable. Okay. Go for it.
Let's see. Finn? No, Finn.
Finn.
What was...
Finnick?
Finnick, yes. Like, as soon as I saw that there's a wedding between him and his lover, I'm like, oh, one of them's not making out of this alive. A movie that has... A series has been so dark throughout, to have this one shining light of moment of happiness and joy, it's like, oh, this is just a setup for a letdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when that happened, Finnick dying, and it was such a, it was in such a lackluster way. Like there's this character you've come to care about, and he just kind of gets taken out while in the same scene as like 3 other people, I think, at least.
Yeah, they definitely suffer some casualties there.
Yeah, and it's really fast, and it's just, there's these characters that you've come to care for to a degree that at least they want to make you care for, and they drop like flies without any flair. It's just.
See, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Which is, okay. I want to watch something where I've always been fascinated with Whedon because he's willing to kill off main characters.
No, yes,
and
fine with being willing
it
to
be
kill
coming
off.
out of nowhere. I kind of like that, that kind of no one is necessarily safe mentality.
Okay.
And while like Finnick is one of the stronger characters in the series or whatever, I was okay with his death. I'm also not necessarily a component or a fan of having a huge drawn out death.
Yeah.
I'm okay with someone getting a bullet to the head and the next thing you know is like, holy shit, that dude just took a bullet to the head and he's dead. And like blows me away. Like, what just happened? Like they just killed the character and it's not like grandiose. It's not some like grand sacrifice or anything like that. I mean, his is a little bit more of a sacrifice because he saves the group.
Yeah, he does.
But like, I'm okay with those types of deaths and stuff because it makes it feel more real. Like it makes you more engaged as opposed to, all right, he's part of the main crew. The main crew is not going to die. And you're going through this huge war story or whatever, and you just know that everybody's going to survive at the end. That's not fun to me.
Well, see, no, I wasn't expecting everyone to survive at the end, but I was expecting their deaths to mean something more, or at least be spread out in a way where you're like, oh, that character died, that sucked. Like I said, there were scenes where I wasn't even sure what character was dying. It happened so fast. Like, once they get out of the sword from those mutts, the guy just gets vaporized and turned into crystal. And I wasn't sure what guy that was. Mm-hmm. I think it was the one camera guy crew, part of the camera crew. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that happened really quickly. I'm not too sure either.
And that's my problem with it, is, if you're going to kill off a character, at least let's fucking know which one you're killing off.
Yeah.
Like, when that weird oil shit started pouring in.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that one guy get tossed into it, and something happened to him.
Yeah, he got like strung up.
Yeah.
Or like there's some weird cables.
I don't know who that was.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem, is,
That was one of the new crew.
It is, they might as well have been wearing red shirts.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to have that complication, though. It's going to always have that problem where you're watching a film and there's not necessarily a person who is going to have the time to be have the character development that you would necessarily need. There's always going to be red shirt deaths in something like that you're just like, who was that again?
Right. I don't know, but I mean, he was part of the new crew, yeah, but like I said, there's the one that was established part, like the camera crew and everything, the media crew, and like he kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
And you saw Foggy Nelson be really sad.
Yeah.
It took me forever to figure out who that was, by the way. Why do I know this guy? How do I know him? It's because he wasn't talking, so I didn't get his charisma out. And I'm like, oh, it's Foggy Nelson, okay.
Yeah. So yeah. What else? Well, I guess we're talking about character deaths. So how did you feel about Primrose?
That felt tacked on. Like that felt like okay, they established that she was part of the medic crew, okay. But then you just have these medics running from seemingly nowhere, starting to help wounded people, then bombs drop and she's just gone. And like I said, it felt tacked on just to give more weight to what Katniss is going through, to lead her to her decision. But it just, like, I know you already established that you don't mind us putting a lot of weight in people's deaths, but this was she was key to the way everything played out in the story. Like, if it wasn't for her being selected initially and Katniss taking her place, like, this story would not have happened.
Right.
So she is a figurehead in a sense. So I felt like her death should have had more focus on it to show, almost that, everything that led to this point was to save her. And in the end, it meant nothing. And I felt like that could have been explored a lot more because Katniss was put through hell because of this, just to save her sister. And you got her emotion, but you didn't really get, like, a big change in character of her. Like, she was still going to kill Snow, whatever, that was her goal.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I felt like this would have broken her a lot more because of, everything that led to that point.
Yeah.
It's her protecting her sister, and in the end, she couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think this is part of the end writing that suffered, that they didn't know exactly what to do, or the writer of it didn't necessarily know how to solve a couple things. So what they did was, in order to solve the love story, they implemented this device where Gale created these bombs.
Right.
And in the book, it's drawn out like Gale is more military, creating these weapons and everything like that. And they talk about it. They have one line in the movie that sums up that those.
There's that scene when they're bombing the coal mines or whatever, and you do see his, like, if there's a few deaths that are going to be worth it or whatever.
Yeah, and then you see him talking to the other guy, the technical guy, saying these bombs are going to kill more people because they'll have an initial explosion, people will rush in, and then there'll be a secondary explosion. He created that bomb.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he created it. They actually covered it. There's a couple lines in the movie that
I must have missed
they
it.
talk about it, and so he developed that bomb, and that bomb led to her death.
Right.
And Katniss could never get over that.
Right, and that makes sense.
So that's why Gale got out of the picture. But then even at the end, for me, I felt like the way that I felt Katniss's development went from beginning to end, I felt like she should have been alone. I don't think the love affair between her and Peeta would have necessarily been there. Like, I felt like it was just a shoehorned, we're going to kill the sister, blame it on Gale, so now Katniss could easily be with Peeta, happy love story, the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel like, because there's so much shit that goes on with her, like just heartache and disaster, and she's never like that much of a loving character. She's always been disconnected because she suffered so much in her life.
And the love story was more of a love story for Peeta than anything else. Like, it was Peeta's love story for her, and it was her, pushing him away to varying degrees throughout the series.
Yeah, and I just it never clicked really well with me. And then watching it on screen, it still didn't click with me very well. Like, I didn't like the ending that much.
No. It was a very, once again, novelized ending where it was drawn out, and you had all these epilogue type scenes where there's people reading letters from, other characters, and watching news stories of a new president being elected, and oh, look at now they have babies.
Yeah, and then there's Katniss and Peeta happily ever after.
Right.
Talking about the games and whatever, but yeah, it never sat well with me because of the fact that it felt like it was just a device. Her sister's death just felt like a device to try to wrap it up as cleanly as possible. And even like with President Snow, his death. We've gone through these.
I actually found that scene to be very interesting.
Okay.
Because at this point you've established that Coin is not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of shoehorned in there, like, oh no, she just wants to be another tyrant. Because that whole bomb thing was her idea to, it's revealed that, they're saying Snow bombed everybody, but it's really the rebels, I guess, bombing everybody. And it was just to discredit Snow and make him look like even more of a monster, so they can easily take over and win the hearts of everyone else. Alright, so Coin's not a good person, we don't like her. So watching that scene where Katniss is face to face with the person she has been wanting to kill for basically the last 3 movies at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a clean shot of another enemy, another tyrant, it's very interesting because, there's this this person right in front of her that is ripe for the taking, that she has been aggressively going after.
Mm-hmm.
And it's diverting her path, her goal for the greater good by taking out this other tyrant, knowing that the one, leaving her satisfaction of killing Snow to do good by everyone else, I found very interesting. And once again, it shows the strength of that character,
mm-hmm.
that she can think beyond her own selfish cause and do good for others.
Yeah. And that scene that President Snow has with her in the Rose Garden, and he's kind of just telling her, like, Coin played us both.
Yeah.
I loved that speech. I thought it was really well done. I thought Donald Sutherland nailed that. And it was great because then you just got everything you needed to know and the emotion behind it. Like,
Exactly.
all this shit got played. And then the next scene after that, you see Coin like, we're going to do a Hunger Games.
Yeah.
All the shit that they just fought for to destroy, we're just like, fuck it. We're going to do another Hunger Games.
Exactly.
And I liked that part of it. Like, I liked that ending to it. And that was interesting. But then the endings just kept coming.
Yeah. But even then, it didn't feel like a climactic ending. It just, I don't know. Nothing was very powerful. I don't know.
How would you have ended the series?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we're, reviewing or criticizing it. We didn't make it. I mean, I don't have anything better to offer at this point, but I don't know.
Yeah, like there's we talked about like the non-satisfaction because it's like all of a sudden Prim dies, fade to black, we lose like the whole entire invasion of the castle or the mansion, the capturing of Snow and all of that stuff because it happens off screen. And then it just kind of feels like, well, what the fuck just happened, man? We've been sitting here for 2 hours waiting for this, like, Osama bin Laden raid on the mansion.
And we don't get that.
And no, we get it talked about after. So it's kind of a letdown in that regard. But I did like that conversation that she has with Snow.
Oh, it was a very good conversation.
Yeah, so that was definitely a strong point of it. So yeah, what else do you want to talk about here?
Can't think of anything offhand right now. Like, I think everything that bothered me I liked, I really kind of covered.
Okay. Yeah. I think that, I'm happy with the series being over. I don't see what else they could have possibly done with it. I mean, maybe, I think the ending I would have liked and seen is definitely seeing seeing Katniss being alone because, like, the person who goes through all that stuff she's obviously a damaged character and, not necessarily a loving character. She can try, but she's always going to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay with seeing that type of character being alone at the end. The shit between her and Peeta couldn't necessarily last through all the shit that they've been through, with the whole mind control thing and like there's just a lot of shit there and a lot of damage there, and I just don't see that ending very successfully. But teen novel, love trumps all, and they have babies, and she's gonna sit in that field reflecting for the rest of her life
until she's parted eventually.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So thanks for listening. We really appreciate you guys listening to us, and I guess we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.